I'm Scott Koegler. I'm here at the VCF conference for 2010. I'm here with Matt Gersper of CiGDM. And
CiGDM.
CiGDM. All right, Matt, you got to tell me what all those initials mean.
So CiGDM is a combination of two companies, Customs Info and Global Data Mining.
Okay.
And we've shortened the name into CiGDM because we're really marketing the two companies together.
All right. Okay. And so tell me about the way that you're, well, first the problem that you're approaching and how you're providing a solution to the issues.
So CiGDM is a data technology company, and what we're providing is the data services to help automate the world of global trade.
Let's say I'm importing, use your example from earlier, T-shirts, and I'm paying a price for it, and I'm also paying a tariff on that.
Correct.
And so you'll look at that combination and find ways for me to do better, right?
Yeah. So there's a pretty big study out by the Aberdeen Group, and one of the major takeaways was a typical billion-dollar a company importing about a third of its revenues, so $300 to $400 million, could free in cash between $10 and $40 million a year by basic process improvement in the area of global trade, focusing on better use of trade agreements, smarter sourcing opportunities, utilizing foreign trade zones and supply chain finance strategy. We've analyzed about $178 billion in U.S. imports and have consistently confirmed what Aberdeen found through this soft research process. It's really been fascinating to me.
So this is like found money, essentially.
It really is found money, and it's about, I've called global trade the last frontier of corporate optimization, because back in the 70s and 80s when we automated ERP, companies were getting huge returns through business process optimization. Right. They're having a difficult time finding those big ROI opportunities today, but I think they'll find them in global trade if they haven't looked already.
So is the issue there that companies don't know that those things are available?
The data itself, the transactional data, what a company imports and what a company exports, is typically outside the corporate firewall. It's maintained by the U.S. government because you have to report it.
Okay.
But the transactions are oftentimes managed by a third-party broker, and the ERP system, the corporate enterprise data applications, do not have this data. So
they don't have the detail.
No visibility.
So they have the gross.
They have the gross, but they don't have the detail.
Interesting.
And what we do is we link in the detail to them, and it just pops out in big, bright colors, and you say, my goodness.
So you may know, for instance, that the T-shirt that you import has a 16% tariff on it from this analysis. But then where do you go to say, okay, well, I don't want to pay that 16%?
It's a great example. So, and let me give an example of T-shirts and bicycle tires. And if you're an executive and you're looking at your import data and say you're importing so many dollars in T-shirts and you're paying a 16% duty rate and actually $1 million in duties, you don't know if that's good or bad.
Right.
So what we're able to do is with your transactional data, link in the data from all U.S. imports and say to you, Scott, you're paying $1 million for your T-shirts, 16.5%, but the market as a whole is only paying 8%. And so now we know you're at a competitive disadvantage.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you should change your source countries, but you better at least be aware that you're operating at least at an 8% market disadvantage. Then we can look at the underlying data that makes up that 8%, all other U.S. importers, in the same commodity codes. So by very tight definition, your competition.
Okay.
And we can see that there's, in the case of T-shirts, there's over $1 billion a year coming in. Over 50% of the transactions that are coming in the United States are coming in completely duty-free, and they're coming from 25 different source countries. So there's a lot of options if you happen to be importing T-shirts into the United States market. By contrast, if you're importing bicycle tires, I think the duty rate's 8 or 9 or 10%. And you're going to be importing, you're going to see 10%, and when we compare it to the whole U.S. market, it's also 10%. And when we look at the underlying data, China is like 98% of the entire U.S. tire market, and Taiwan has about 2%, and that's it. So it wouldn't be a very smart business decision to say, let's do everything we can to mitigate our duty on bicycle tires, because there's no source in the world that the U.S. is currently buying from that can help you with that. But if I looked at T-shirts, I would give you strong advice to look around. You can probably save.
So there's not always opportunity, but where there are, it seems like there may be huge opportunities. So where do you see this the trends that you're looking at? Where do you see them going in the next couple of years? I mean, both in terms of just market viabilities or changes in markets. I mean, any insight into that?
Yeah, great question. ERP systems have gotten so good about paying the bills properly that the industry I used to work for had a standard error rate of 1/10%. So when we would go in and audit a $1 billion company, if we had $1 billion worth of transactions, we'd find $1 million in errors. A lot of money, $1 million, but it's only 1/10%. So that company's operating 99.9% perfectly.
Right.
When we audit global trade today, we're finding error rates to the tune of 10, 20, sometimes 30%.
Wow.
So in the exact same company, the internal controls for their accounting processes are 200 times better than their internal controls for their global trade processes. And what's happening today, where the trends I see, are that the global trade management revolution is upon us. That executives are becoming aware of what Aberdeen wrote about these 5 or 6 years ago. They're looking for these huge financial gains by pulling in their global trade operations from brokerage houses to make them internal corporate functions. They're pulling the data inside, and they're building applications to manage the data better, smarter, faster, more effectively. Okay. And I think when they do that, they're going to start to realize some very, very significant gains. We've developed what we believe is the world's first electronic customs auditing solution. So we're able to audit, how did a company, what did they order, what did they receive, and what did they pay for, and, which has been done for many, many years, but what did they tell the U.S. government about that?
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Good talking with you.
Thank you very much
for coming in.